Scott Brinkly here. Welcome back. If you're watching this, you should have already watched the setup tutorial of the Nexstar sales plan. In the event if you have not, please stop this and go back and watch the setup tutorial. So now Nexstar Air is set up, and just to recap, we have 22 budgeted days in June. We are going to run 600 calls. We are going to fill our call board with at least 33% of all of our calls that come in will be aged equipment, meaning in a heat pump market that will be older than 8 years old, in a gas market that will be older than 10, or a combination market. You know, if you're ever over, say, 60-70%, gas, while you're 40% heat pump, go ahead and make that an 8-year-old market. Okay, so again, we're going to identify those on the call board. That number will go here. We have set it up in our service population, our monthly spend. This tells us how many leads we're going to generate for replacement sales. We have entered in here, we have entered in our average tickets. We didn't know our breakdown, so we just entered in 7 for marketed, 7 for turnover, 7 for self-generated. In reality, once you do this a few months, you'll know the breakdown of these. We also set up, we have 4 comfort advisors, and they're all C's for comfort advisor. If they were selling text, they'd have a T over it. You see here it says put a T if it's a selling tech. So we entered all this in. So what does this mean? Well, what happens after you go through your business planning workshop, you're going to get all this information that you're going to be able to set this up. And so if your budget is, say, 600 grand, well, this plan, by just entering in, will come out and tell you you're going to sell more than that. And so by you shooting to sell what this plan tells you, you'll always be able to kill your budget. So let's go ahead and go to day 1. So on day 1, this information will be entered in on day 2. So on June 2nd, we've already ran our calls on June 1st. Somebody in your office will enter this information. There's not much to enter in once it's set up. There's only a few boxes. So right here it says calls ran. You enter in how many HVAC service calls you ran yesterday. Let's just say we ran, 30. Okay. By entering this in, it's going to tell me instantly we are pacing 660 calls. So we are pacing ahead of our budget there. That looks good. Let's say we turned over, right? So this is calls ran. This is turned over that our technicians gave to our sales lead coordinator, and then she in turn set up for a comfort advisor. We do not have selling techs in this model. I will make another tutorial of a selling tech model. So if you look, let's go ahead and say, all right, well, they turned over, let's say they turned over 6 calls. Well, it says 6 calls turned over, right? Our planned turnover rate based on the opportunity, based on that number you entered in here, 33%, that gave us what we should turn over as a total of percentage of all calls, which is 20%. So we turned over 6. Well, down here is where you put the results. So every day your comfort advisors ran leads. So let's just say in this example, we had Frank who ran 2 turnovers, and if you look, it says tech lead, tech sale, tech revenue, market lead, market sale, market revenue. Other lead, this is your Costco, Home Depot, your home shows, all that type of stuff. Self-generated. So let's say this tech, Frank, ran 2. He sold 2 for $12,500. Let's say that Henry ran 3, closed 1 for $5,600. All right, so that's 6 leads. That's 5. We turned over 6. So let's go ahead and say Paul ran 1 and didn't sell it. Now let's say John didn't run any, but John ran 3 market leads, closed 2 for $8,000. Let's say that, I'll tell you what, let's say Paul ran 2 market leads, closed 1 for $7,500. And that's good. So this is my day. So your sales lead coordinator will enter this box, calls ran, calls turned, and enter in the results from the day prior. Once she does that, she will print out 2 copies of this. One will go to the sales manager and one will go to the general manager. And so if you look, it will print out everything you see here in this top. So this is a snapshot of yesterday. So let's see how our business, this is something that your sales manager would carry into his daily huddle. So if you look, we were supposed to run yesterday. Look, plan leads. We're supposed to run 5 turnovers in this model. We ran 6, so that's good. We went 1 over. We had 3 sales. Here's our average revenue. Here's the revenue, the close rate, average sale. We were supposed to run 3 marketed leads. Well, we ran 5, so we went over there. We were supposed to not run any other, because remember, we didn't do Costco home shows or any of that type of stuff. We were supposed to get 1 self-generated lead, and we didn't get any. So again, we should have ran 9 leads yesterday. We ran 11. We sold 33.6. Well, is that good? Let's look up here. We should have done 34.048. We did 33.6. So we're pacing real close on sales. We're pacing ahead in calls, and look, our total monthly pace is on track, 10 grand off. But now again, look at this number. We need 4.86 minimum crews to install this revenue. So this is a check that will show up every single day. As you bring this to your daily huddle, if you don't have 4.86 crews, you're going to burn your people out. Not only are you going to burn them out, your chances of getting that is probably not going to be good without burning them out. All right, it says you need 4.9 comfort advisors. Well, you notice we only have 3, so the same thing. Because here's what happens. This is again, I cannot stress the importance enough. This is a tool that is designed to drive max capacity. What I mean by that is you'll learn to manage your people through their strengths and not their weaknesses. So all this means is that if you have a comfort advisor, and let's say that he and his wife got into a fight and he's had 2 bad days of sales. Well, in this example, you've got 4 comfort advisors. What are you going to do? If you send that one home, you're now not going to be able to run the right amount of leads. So this is why this tells you to overstaff your comfort advisors, so you can take that guy, bring him in and talk to him, and you can bench him. Yes, every ball player gets benched. You set him down and you say, look, we're having issues. Let's get through this. For now, I'm not going to let you run leads for the next day or 2 until he gets over that. If not, what happens is you end up letting the inmates run the prison. If you let the inmates run the prison, you're going to get the results of the inmate instead of you actually managing from their strengths. Now in this example, we should have had 20% of our calls should have been turned over, and look, we actually ran 20%. So good, we're on track. We've had 0 cancellations. This keeps up. If this ever gets above 10% on cancellation rate, this tells you that you're booking your turnovers out too far. This is why I recommend you pay your techs a higher percentage for same day, if not next day turnovers. For example, I pay my technicians 2% of the sale if it turns over and runs today or tomorrow. After that second day, well, it goes to 1%. Then what this does is it drives the turnover to run faster. I learned a long time ago, you get what you pay for. If you pay for a bunch of hours, you're going to get a bunch of hours. You pay for, a bunch of, you pay for profits, you're going to get profits. You pay for same-day turnovers, you're going to get same-day turnovers. Everybody here knows that we close about 80% on same-day turnovers. We close about 66% on the next day turnovers. After that, it drops down to around 20. And it's not because you close at 20%, it's because of the cancellation rate goes through the roof. They don't even remember why they turned it over. So it's very important. Again, if this goes above 10%, we're having issues booking them fast enough. And the next part of the daily snapshot, so the sales lead coordinator, again, prints off this tab. She'll print this off on the 2nd, give one to the sales manager, one to the general manager. And then the next portion of that is, look, your monthly actuals are here. Your monthly expectations are here. So currently, through the month, we should sell $34,000. Well, we're at 33, so we're only off $448. We're off in different categories. That's okay. Total, we are off 1 sale here. We're over 2 sales here. We're over 1 sale here. So now let's go ahead and look at the next day. Let's go to day 2. Let's scroll down. Let's say day 2, we ran 25 calls. Let's say we turned over, I'm going to say we turned over 9. Let's go down here. Let's give Frank, let's say Frank ran 3 turnovers, closed 1 for $8,000. Let's say Henry ran 2, closed 1, $5,400. Let's say he also ran 1 market lead and closed it for $6,000. Let's say Paul ran 2, did not close any. And let's say John, let's see, how many is that there? That is 7. Okay. Let's say that John didn't run any. He ran nothing but market leads, 3, closed 2 for $8,000. So now what happens, you enter this day 2. Let's look, she prints this out. This would have been, again, this would have been data entry on day 3, but she'd entered in the seconds numbers. She prints 2 copies out. One goes to the sales manager, one goes to the general manager. And then here's what it looks like. So yesterday we should have ran 9 leads. We ran 11. The breakdown is up here. We should have ran 5 turnovers. We ran 7. So you see the breakdown. We should have brought in, here's the snapshot. Here's the breakdown of yesterday. Here's a snapshot right here. We should have sold 34,000. We sold 27, so we fell short. Our calls fell down some, so our pace dropped. We're still pacing above what our service calls should be. We still should do 749,671, which we're on track to do. Again, we need 4.86 crews. And I'm going to keep reminding you every day, you should have 4.93 company advisors. You only got 4, you need to add 1. If not, you're going to be bent over a barrel if somebody starts to have a bad day or a bad week. We should have got 20% turnovers. Hey, we actually got 24%. That's great. But look, our cancellation rate is now up to 13. Again, this is going to tell you if this gets above 10, we're booking them too far out in advance. Then this gives the monthly totals. We should be, right, our monthly totals, here's what we've done. Here's where we should be. So we should be at 68,000. We're currently at 61,000. We're $7,000 behind, but we're actually 1 sell up. So 1 sell up, so that tells you if we're behind, our average ticket's low. So again, this is everything that you're going to need to track to keep up with it. Now, I haven't even gone over the most exciting portion. So this, again, this tracks it all. Do you notice this individual tab? I'm not going to click on it yet because you heard me say that you don't want the inmates to run the prison. This is the device that keeps you from doing that. So let me click on it and show you what it does. Alright, so if you look here, here's our guys. This is our guys' totals. So Frank has ran 5 leads, closed 3 for 60%. Here's his revenue. Here's his average sale. Here's his average dispatch. Here's a breakdown of the buckets. So if you see tech leads, based on our current average ticket at this shop, we need to be around 4620 average dispatch. Would be a perfect dispatch for this shop. This will change depending on your average ticket. If you notice, there's a spot for selling technicians average ticket. We don't have any selling tech, so you don't see, there's no numbers over here. If we would have entered in T's as technicians, then numbers would be calculated in this column instead of this column. But now what this does, if you look, out of the tech leads, so we've had Frank has ran 5, Henry's ran 5, Paul's ran 3. Well, look at what it's doing here. It's giving a check to Frank, exclamation to Henry, X to Paul. What this thing is doing is, I built this to take a lot of stuff in consideration. What it's going to do is going to take the average, closure rate, the average sale, all that in consideration, but it's also going to take a 3-day trend in consideration. So you remember me saying that if a guy gets into a fight with his wife and has 2 bad days, you might not know it as a sales lead coordinator or as a sales manager. You know he had a good 2-week run. Well, he might have 3, 4, 5, 6 bad days before you even know it. This thing will pick up on it instantly. So here's what it does, is it actually takes the monthly average and it takes a trailing 3-day trend average. And so in the event if a guy's having a bad day, it'll pick up on it. If he has 2 bad days, it's going to start to highlight it a little more. If he has 3 bad days, it's really going to stand out. So it's going to throw an X up here, just like this is done. This says, do not give Paul any more turnovers without pulling him in, having a conversation, making sure he's aware of it. And in the event, if you don't feel he's ready to run anymore, well, guess what? You have to bench Paul. Right? Now, in this example, unfortunately, this company is understaffed. They did not staff with 5 comfort advisors the way I said they need to. Remember, the program shows them 4.93. They did not. So they're probably not able to bench Paul. Paul's just going to keep going and keep getting zeros, keep getting zeros, keep getting zeros. And he's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the next thing is, if you look over here, it does it in every category. If you notice, well, look at this. Paul has an exclamation here. He's doing okay. So you got 2 guys doing okay over here. You got one that's doing really well. And so, but again, this is only a few days of numbers. Once you get more than 3 days numbers, this thing will change daily. So what you do with this tab is your sales lead coordinator prints it out daily. Just hits print on this page, and it will print everything you see, and she posts it in her office. So if I'm the sales manager or the general manager, and I go into her office and we've got 4 turnovers today, well, by God, at least 3 of them better be on Frank. If not, it's going to cost me, because if we walked in there and 3 of them are on Paul, well, that's going to cost us $12,000, because Frank is averaging 4,100 each. So if we gave those to Paul, he's averaging 0. He's going to tend to average 0, and that's why this thing throws an X up and says, hey, you got to have a conversation with Paul. If not, this 0 trend is going to keep. So let's go to the next day and just enter another day and show you this. Let's go to the 3rd day. Let's say we ran, 28 calls. So we only turned over 5. And let's say Frank was off. Let's say John actually got 3. Closed 2 of them for, let's say, $16,000. All right, let's say Paul ran 2, got 0, and let's say Henry ran 1, got 1 for $5,600. And then we'll throw in some market leads over here on Paul. Let's say he ran 1, got 1 for $7,500. So if you look now, again, this gets entered in by the sales lead coordinator, prints out 2 copies. One goes to the general manager, one goes to the sales manager. And if you look, we're supposed to run, oh, this is a Saturday. Okay, great. If you see, we're supposed to run 0 calls, right? We didn't budget for that. So we actually ran 7. So that's really going to pick up our pace, because look, now we're pacing 9:13 because obviously we weren't budgeted to run a call on this Saturday. But regardless, we can actually go back. Let's do this. Let's go back. I'm going to copy these. I'm going to go to Monday. Enter the same leads on a Monday. Let me go back to Saturday. I'm going to remove them. And we did 28 and 5. So let's go back to Monday. Enter in, all right, 28 and 5. So now this is more realistic. Well, I say that. I put them on the wrong day. Let me go back right here. All right, 28 and 5. So now Monday. So we are still pacing 609 calls. Doing well there. We should have sold 34. We sold 29. We still need 4.86 crews, 4.93 comfort advisors. We should have turned over 20%. We turned over 23. Look, our cancellation rate dropped. So that's good. So everything looks good here. You got a snapshot of your company. We should be at 102,000. We're at 91, so we're 12 off. We've actually made the exact amount of sales we need. Our average ticket's just low. So let's go to the individual tab. Well, look what's changed. You see these? We've actually changed a lot. So Paul still gets an X. For some reason, this sales lead coordinator didn't look at this yesterday. She gave Paul 2 more calls. Well, it's going to keep him saying, hey, he's not doing well. Look at here. John's now in the game. John and Frank are the top 2 people to send. So if you only had six turnovers, guess what? Frank gets 2, John gets 3, and Frank gets 3. They both get 3. And if you scroll across here, it tells you, look, we have 2 that are good to go, 1 that's iffy, the 1, well, he hasn't ran any. So on marketed leads, it's going to tell you if you've got 5 market leads, you know, then you would actually split them between everybody that gets a check. Now again, but this gentleman here also has a check on turnovers. So you have to look at it and go, all right, which one is more important? So again, all this thing does is it monitors your average and your 3-day trend versus leaving it up to a sales lead coordinator. I cannot stress the importance enough. If this thing says don't send them without a conversation. To give you a quick example, I was at a company, they had a comfort advisor that ran 10 leads in the first 2 weeks that were turnovers. He sold 80%. All right, that's good. He sold 8 of them. He should sell at least 66%. So he sold 8, did a good job. Well, the next 2 weeks he ran 15 turnovers and closed 2. That would never happen in my company, right? Because this would tell you otherwise. But in this example, they didn't have this, so they just said that guy's the best, and they let him keep running them. So again, this is it. This is the tool that's designed to obviously help you drive your business. I am going to go ahead and add another link here as a setup tab for turnovers. For selling technicians, just so I can walk you through that as well.